Let's start first with a short introduction, who you are and the company you work for.
Let me start. So Florian from Florian Normani from Komgo. So almost 4 years now working as a sales executive, covering French, Nordics, and recently Benelux markets, covering a portfolio of corporates, banks, and insurance companies. So growing, driving growth of the company for this region, and with a background of banks and corporate before.
Good evening, everyone. So Benoit Scholtissen, I work for Aperam. Aperam is a stainless steel production company active in the recycling, the production of stainless steel, as I said, but also nickel alloys. We are headquartered in Luxembourg with industrial activities in the world now, in mostly everywhere except Asia, where we have only very small activities.
Okay, so let's start first with you, Florian. So how do you define trade finance and its strategic relevance for Treasury team, particularly in the context of guarantee management? Bank guarantees, I mean.
So just to revert a bit on Komgo, so we are a trade finance solution to cover the management of all trade finance instruments. So trade finance is not for all treasurer, but for those who have some international business, so most of them, some dedicated solution to manage a letter of credit, guarantees, doc collection still in some countries, or any kind of trade finance instrument is very relevant. Some TMS are proposing some solution, but for more complex or dedicated solution for trade finance, we are integrated with some treasury management system to cover more complex problem.
Okay, and so you mean that for corporate treasurers, you agree that it's quite relevant to consider trade finance a key activity?
Yeah, definitely. So to aggregate all the trade finance topics and be the middleman between the corporate and the bank we equip, it's very relevant to have a almost real-time view of utilization, build some custom report, and integrate this to either the TMS for commission or fees forecasting, for example, push some payments to the TMS, or interact with a third party like ERPs for the invoicing and populate to generate an invoice for a letter of credit, for example. So all these integration are relevant.
It's an end-to-end solution for
management
of guarantee, whatever type of guarantee.
Yes, so internally and externally. Yeah.
Okay, and Benoit, where are we today? Because how could we assess the current state of digitalization, trade finance, and supply chain finance from your perspective? Are we still scratching the surface, or are we seeing real transformation and innovation?
I would say that there are a high level of digitalization, yes and no. Yes, supply chain financing is all about liquidity management, working capital requirements management. And when your unique objective is to generate more cash, accelerate the cash conversion of your receivable assets, for example, or decelerate the cash conversion of your trade payables, you will find plenty of systems which allow you to digitalize this action, let's say. But then for a listed company as Aperam, we have a big focus on this, of course, but the big focus is also to maintain these trade payable as long as possible, and to de-recognize the receivable when they are part of a securitization program, for example. And this is where digitalization is becoming a bit more tricky, because the risk is always that these liabilities or these assets, liabilities might be converted or requalified as financial liabilities, and these assets would not be de-recognized from the balance sheet, and you would have to recognize liabilities, financial liabilities against the cash that you received from these assets. And when it comes to this, and the most recent evolution of IFRS are even more tricky. IFRS 7 was changed in 2023, requiring more disclosure on supply chain financing. And there is clearly more scrutiny on how you do it. And most of the case, unfortunately, these electronic platforms did not qualify to maintain your trade payables, for example, as trade payables, but switching to a financial liability. And then for listed companies, it has implication like impacting your financial covenants, impacting eventually the leverage ratio in your financing. When you have a pricing based on leverage ratio, any change to the financial liabilities can trigger more costs for the companies. And then, as we do it for Aperam, this is an ongoing focus. And when it comes to supply chain financing, forfeiting, trade payables, where we try to extend, the duration of the trade payables on balance sheet, we're back to the classical, old-fashioned way of doing, because this is the safest way to do it, let's say, and the way it's defendable with external auditors, which could force you to requalify the financial liabilities. So this is where we are. In one hand, there are high digitalization, and for companies needing to accelerate their cash conversion to gain liquidity from it, only this is fine, plenty of systems available. But if you want to do it in a specific framework, it's much more difficult.
And you mentioned securitization. It's one of the targets of the new commission. So I would like to develop, because when you see the US compared to Europe, we are far from them. So it's part of the capital market union, or what has been renamed SIU, Saving Investment Union. But the question for both, why now, and what is driving this acceleration of this digital adoption in trade and supply chain finance? Is it the regulatory pressure, the cost of efficiency, ESG, client demand, or geopolitical, let's say, concern at the moment? What are the reasons?
I think it's a mix of all these parameters. Get the real data at the right time, I think, is something we drive a lot of decision to switch from one system to the other, or from no system to a specific and dedicated solution. So get access to your own data and leverage on it to make some right decision. Exactly what has been mentioned from Kire just before. So advanced analytics reporting is part of the decision of the treasurer to equip his team or the company with a dedicated solution. So this is what we see currently.
Additional comment, Benoit?
Yeah, well, I think the speed of execution is something which is key, obviously, and all the paperwork which we still have to do nowadays, it's incredible. Thanks to COVID, we see obviously now generalization of e-signing, right, which is great. But in the past, before that, all these documents were having to be wet signed, basically, right? So I think speed of execution, risk management. Also, all these paperworks which are exchanged from one country to another generate some risk. If we would have, for example, a full digitalization of e-bill of exchange, for example, that would be something fantastic. But of course, it doesn't work. Why? Because the legal framework does not exist in all countries, because systems are not harmonized, and this is where we are.
I fully agree.
Yeah, and what are the key challenges for clients facing this guarantee management and trade finance in general? Florian, tell us.
So the fragmentation of organization need to harmonize internally, externally. The connectivity is so with banks exactly the same, which has been mentioned before, is very challenging, because in the cash management we have one-way communication with the bank. In finance you have multiple communication back and forth with different stakeholders. When you have to issue a guarantee, the bank can come back with comments and back and forth. So it's the connectivity is very, very concerning in this way. The harmonization, so the regulation, is also part of the pain point to adopt such a solution.
So we are not talking about the same connectivity we mentioned earlier with Cyril. So it means that you are a sort of connector between banks and clients.
But we are equipping both banks and corporates. So we have our own channel of communication, but still we are also multi-channel. So leveraging on Swift, EBIX, email still, electronic signature. So being multi-bank and multi-channel is definitely something we need to maintain and to continue to propose to address the more banks, because same we have clients having 100 banks to connect with, and multi-bank is good, but multi-channel is definitely the best way to manage this.
And in terms of challenges, so the absence of standardization is one of the issues very often mentioned. So how can digitalization, automation, and maybe standardization, and if yes, what should we do to standardize, to really improve the process and to enhance the processes? Any ideas or?
We participate to a workshop on different countries we are present, supporting our clients, and having a SaaS model is also something who help a lot to harmonize the solution, equipping some different companies, and with a better leverage effect on adoption. And but adoption is definitely driving this, and it's step by step, but take time. We already mentioned it, so yeah.
You see that, Benoit?
Yeah, well, I would say, look, we are all mostly familiar with Swift, and you can certainly issue letter of credit with Swift quite easily for a very long time. For the product, it's different. We're more or less nowhere. I think there are one platform here, there are other platforms, but there is not yet like a very leading platform that will basically standardize for the rest. And when this platform will exist, most probably we will come to a limited number of players and a certain standardization for issuing certain payment instruments.
Or is your platform, because you are talking about tools, addressing this pain point, and how concrete benefits could be when you use this kind of platform? What are the benefits of adopting? Let's say,
we already mentioned it, so it's a way of better efficiency with communication, internal communication, and manage workflows. So it's better efficiency in managing some guarantee issuance. For some companies, issuing a bid bond on time make a deal or not. So it can be crucial to issue a guarantee in no matter of time, get the answer from the bank quickly, and have some intelligence within the solution to adapt some workflows depending the amount, the counterpart, the availability of the credit line. So all these parameters can trick some different workflow and different process, which makes the work of the guarantee or trade finance team much more efficient. Security, we mentioned it. Make sure that the data are still secure and hosted in the best ways, and the reporting capabilities, all the way you manage analytics in the system.
So you manage the credit lines because you can have many banks, so many credit lines, or bank guarantee credit lines. So you manage that. Yeah. So are you complementing the TMSs because you come when TMS is not able to manage bank guarantees?
Not really not able, but when the workflows became more complex, when there is a lot of different entities or business units in the companies with a lot of different type of workflows. So internal workflows from the inception of the demand of the guarantee and the communication to the bank, we are integrated with the trade finance system of the banks. We are also equipping. So that part, sometimes the TMS are not covering this part. So we are building some partnership with TMS companies to cover where the trade finance needs are more than just have a database of the guarantees or instruments in portfolio.
And so, Benoit, how do you think the role of corporate treasury in this trade finance, let's say, supply chain? Should we play a major role or a bigger role? Do you see some changes? And if technology could also help in improving our role and centralizing?
Well, I would say it depends very much of the industry, of course, but working capital requirements management is something which is absolutely key in Aperam industry. Why? Because we are a cyclical business. We have certain volatility in working capital requirements due to the price of raw materials, due also to the fact that we are selling products to pan-European customers, but not only, and different habits, different payment terms. The business plays an important role in managing working capital requirements, just-in-time inventories, so reducing payment terms to customers as much as possible, negotiating good contracts with suppliers, but then sometimes it doesn't fit with the objectives. And this is where corporate treasurers play a very important role by putting in place some instruments which improve, let's say, the way the business is being done. Acceleration of cash conversion of receivable, I said, trade payables with extension of payment terms. This is really key roles. And obviously, all of this still require a lot of paperwork. And of course, if digitalization could accelerate, it would make things much easier, quicker, and safer.
No, we saw working capital as one of the priorities, and I guess that corporate treasurers should play a major role, although working capital, per definition, involve a lot of different departments. It's very often, like cash flow forecasting, a big issue because of the many departments involved and the many affiliates. It makes the processes quite complex and more complicated than when we thought initially. When it comes to innovation, Cyril mentioned AI. We saw that AI is still high in priority. So what do you see with the role of AI? Could it play a role in enhancing the connectivity with bank and with the corporates? Could it be a potential future, or do you see the innovation in that area?
On this field, AI is not applicable for the time being on the connectivity with banks, but more internally on the way the solution, the platform is working to support and to help the decision. So enhanced analytics provide some real-time extract. So you prompt, give me my top 3 stakeholders on this region. So you can prompt the system and get advanced data analysis. So it's the first way we use AI on the solution, leveraging on Mistral model. Extract some data. So it's advanced OCR, means when a project manager, for example, is applying for a guarantee, he share with the Treasury team some supporting documents. So extracting the data from the set of documents and scoring and rating the text of the guarantee, for example, is something which is already live in production with some German clients. And to trigger some decision based on the score of the guarantee text. So that can be something very helpful to support the guarantee team and to save time as well. Yeah.
Any comment, Benoit? Do you see?
Well, we don't use AI yet at Aperam for treasury management. We use RPAs for many years now. To automate certain non-value-added processes, let's say, like checking confirmation when we still have paper confirmation for commodities business, for example. All of this has been automated. I see AI probably as a good tool for us to automate our cash flow forecasting, at least short-term cash flow forecasting. We have 2 systems at Aperam. We have usual, let's say, controlling cash forecast, which are prepared by a controlling department, which look at the quarter ahead. And we have our rolling 4 weeks cash forecast at Treasury level. At the moment, most of it is done more or less automatically through our TMS, but there is manual input a lot by our subsidiaries. The idea would be to use AI in the future to generate this and probably also to challenge a bit more what is being received from our subsidiaries. So this is probably where we could start AI for treasury management at Aperam.
More question for you, Florian. So what is the level of guarantee, the number of guarantee you need to let's say, justify the investment in a solution like yours?
So yeah, the decision could be driven by volume for sure. Mm-hmm. So we have some companies running thousands and thousands of guarantees a year with a huge stock of guarantee with long-term guarantees. So managing the stock and new guarantees can be challenging and need to have a dedicated solution. But it's not the only decision It could be the complexity of the internal workflow to manage, who should need a dedicated solution. It should need also the how critical is the guarantee or the trade finance operating in your company. If you lose a business because the letter of credit is not issued by the end of the day, it can justify, and this LC is multiple billion value face guarantee or letter of credit, it should justify to pay a license to a dedicated solution to make it on time with more efficient. So the decision can be driven by volumes, but also by the efficiency of the process. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot to both of you for this insightful comments. So Benoit, Florian, thanks a lot.